Growing up is realizing that Mako and Kora should never been together in the first place. They didn't have love. What they had was infatuation and limerence. If you really think about it, Mako and Kora are of course two different people. Mako is a thug. He, lives on the streets. He fights for money. He doesn't have parents, and people don't really respect him because he's just a common hoodlum. Then we have Kora, who, as a child was, found to be the avatar, and now she has to live a life of rigidity and, being perfect all the time, having to save people's lives was just very frustrating. What they really wanted was like to switch lives. And if you remember that iconic scene when Mako and Kora were sitting at the piers and they're like staring off in the distance, little me was so excited. I'm like, oh my god, they're like in love with each other. But no, that scene when they were staring at each other, staring from the piers, they were just in love with the idea of the lives that each other had. Mako wanted a life where he could be seen as a hero, where he could be respected and have power. And Kora wanted a life where she could be normal and, just, melt in or hide with everyone else and, kind of just be do hoodlum stuff, I guess. That's the best way I could describe it. I do really think that they care for each other, but as far as romance, I feel like it just wasn't there. This feels like a trauma bond relationship, honestly. Like they were just not it. And I just remember watching edits of them when I was a kid, thinking like, oh my god, they are the cutest couple. Now, also, his brother, Michael's brother, Bolin, also a terrible couple because as soon as Bolin got money, he got fame, he was just acting like a freaking incel. I'm like, ill, like ill. Like both of these brothers were terrible romantic choices for Korra. And then I guess it was canon because it's been a minute since I watched the show. I guess it was canon like Asami and Korra ended up together. I will have to look at that again, but do I think the Asami and Korra are like a better couple? I still don't think so either. I feel like just this whole friend group just trauma bonds and like they dated each other because Asami is very smart, she's very beautiful, but people really don't look at her for her intelligence, mainly just for her looks. And then of course, you have Korra, who's seen as more strong and strong-willed and stuff. It's that kind of thing. So I feel like everybody in this friend group were just like they should have never dated each other, but it makes sense why they did. And like growing up and noticing, that why that would be a terrible combination in real life.